Hey, Zac. Welcome to Whistle Talks, episode 3. It's great to have you here with us.
Thanks, Kayla. Happy to be here.
Before we get started, could you just tell us a little bit about what your company does and who you are?
Sure. I will start with who I am. I started companies when I was 18, went into sales after that, got into technology sales, and then started helping a lot of companies go to market. Was that first sort of leader in a lot of technology companies here in Toronto, in logistics, in fintech, a bunch of different technology companies. And not only did I help them go to market as their first salesperson, but I also built a lot of their go to market strategy in their enterprise divisions. Did that for many years. And then after which time came together with a couple other people that did the same. We formed Foundation Sales Consulting. And what we do is we help organizations that are growing in the technology space and we help them build repeatable and scalable sales processes and go to market strategies. So we come in, embed ourselves, give you all the operations and strategy that you need, as well as some of the execution. And then we use a lot of partners like yourselves at Whistle and many other partners to be able to help bring in an execution team to facilitate their growth into the future. So that's what me and my partners do at Foundations.
Super impressive. So that means you'll definitely know quite a lot about the topic that we're going to be speaking about today, and that is how to lead compelling discovery calls.
Yeah.
So what a discovery call is for those people that don't know what a discovery call is, and then sort of give us a few tips and tricks.
Awesome. I'd love to. So I think a discovery call is something that a lot of the time finds itself in the business to business market, right? So we're thinking about I'm a business owner, I'm going to market, I'm looking for a solution. And then on the other side, there are solution sellers, right? People that are out looking for people that are looking to buy their solution. What discovery call is it's the sort of alignment check between those 2 points, right? So I'm coming out looking for market. I have X amount of things that I'm looking to overcome, pain, as well as X amount of things that I'm looking to achieve, outcomes, right? And that's me as a business owner. Well, when I'm going to market looking for a technology that can help me achieve those outcomes and get out of that pain, right? A good discovery call from the other side, from the seller, is what's going to be really important to uncover if what they're selling solves my pain and gets me to my outcomes. And so the discovery call allows the seller to uncover what the business owner is looking to achieve, so then ultimately they can explain their solution as it's relevant to them, to sort of avoid the here's what we do, everything that we do, and all that we do. You can be more focused into specifically the outcomes the person's looking to achieve and the pain that they're looking to solve for. So that's what a discovery call acts to do, and then sets up the sales cycle for how we go about proving our value as
Okay,
salespeople.
well, thank you so much for I think it was a really good description. Um, so could you speak about the process of leading discovery calls, the before, during, and then sort of like the aftermath?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So I'll start with the beginning, right? So I think that one of the really important things to keep in the back of our mind is a discovery call only feels like a discovery call if it's teed up effectively. So if you go in to a call as a business owner and you're sitting down with a salesperson and you don't know you're going into a discovery call, it might not feel like discovery. It might feel like interrogation. Might feel like I'm just
Okay.
asking you an endless amount of questions. I'm
Yeah.
trying to triangulate, but I'm not giving you anything. So the really important thing about being a sales leader or being a salesperson and doing a proper discovery call is preparing the prospect for the discovery call. So that's to say that when we're doing, like for Whistle as an example, a lot of the BDRs that we deploy with Whistle for both our clients and for us internally, when they're explaining to a customer what they're going to get on that first call, right? We don't tell them it's a discovery call. That's what we call it. That's our internal nomenclature, right? But when they show
Of
up,
course.
it's an intro call, right? And
Yeah.
during that intro call, we make it very clear what our objective is. And we say, from the BDR side on the cold call, we'll say, my ambition is to set up 30 minutes with you to uncover what your outcomes and your pain is so that I can see if our solution will get you on the other side of that. Something similar to that. You might not use the words outcome, you might not use the words pain, but you're explaining to the person that I'm not just going to bring you to a call and pull up a slide presentation and start telling you everything about my company. I want to
Of
first sit down and see, is this something you're looking for? Are we a good solution for you? And so saying that on the phone is really important. And then when you book the meeting after the phone call, sending them an email invite as well as a follow-up email that are just kind of explaining, again, the idea here is for us to get to know each other, understand what you're looking to achieve as a business so that we can make sure that we're a good fit for you before we end up spending a bunch of time together and going through demonstrations and presentations and all those other things. So the really important thing, all of that being encapsulated, is that when you're looking to set up a discovery call, it's very important to let the other folks on the other side, the people that are looking to procure the business owners, your prospect, that you are looking to complete a discovery call, and that asking questions and trying to triangulate what their outcomes and their pain is part of this process. And if you do that, then the person comes in and can really understand, okay, these questions they're looking to understand my business so then they can
Yeah.
be relevant to me. And then it doesn't feel like an interrogation. Where on the opposite side, if you say, hey, I'm just looking to sit down and do an intro call, and then you get on and you start asking, okay, tell me about your business. How much revenue do you guys have? How many employees do you have? What businesses are you short in? They're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like I don't know you. So they have to
Yeah.
understand what you're looking to achieve. And that's really important to do to kick off the call as well as preemptively for the call.
That makes so much sense. You basically don't want to waste your time and waste anyone else's time, and sort of maybe like hindering a possible relationship. I can only imagine what it's like to feel interrogated as a business owner and have some random guy ask you all these really personal questions about revenue and all that. So that makes total sense. You kind of not need to form that trust from the get go.
Exactly, exactly. And you tell them, like, the goal of this is for me to understand you, right? I don't want to
Yeah.
be that person that's just explaining me. I want to
Okay.
understand you. So then if I think that we're still a good fit, I can explain my business and my product as it's relevant to you, right? As it's specific to what you're looking to do. And then it makes the conversation a lot more, I don't want to say just narrow, but a lot more focused, I think is the word, right? Your pain, our solution, your outcome, our path, right? Like, we can pull those things together. And at the end of that call, we can seek alignment. We can seek that what you're looking to solve for and what you're looking to get is what we solve for, what we help businesses solve and help them get to those outcomes. And then from there, you sort of get on the same side of the table versus back and forth. You get on the same side of the
Yeah.
table looking at the product. Yeah,
The next sort of step, right, would be conducting the actual discovery call.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that next step, so we think about it, how did we get here? Okay, so the person shows
Yeah.
up to the call. We've got 30, 40 minutes to learn each other and get our intro call done. How did we get here? Well, first off, you probably would have a cold call or something like that to get them and book that meeting, right? And then as soon as they book that meeting, there's two things that we should do, right? We should send them the invite that gives them the agenda for the meeting, reserving that time in their calendar. And we should have also sent them a follow-up email explaining to them what they can expect to have in this meeting, both of which you can template, right? And you can use through your CRM or any of those other things. So now they come in, they should have a pretty good idea. But again, we want to assume they might not have read that email or that they might not have read that agenda. So when we kick off the call, usually there's going to be a little bit of rapport. Nice to meet you. Hey, I noticed you like Kobe Bryant, or like you like cars, or you like whatever. We're going to talk about something. We're going to build a little bit of
Yeah.
rapport. As soon as we get to the end of that rapport, then my job as the salesperson, again, you should always start high and work your way in, right? Just like if you think about like a first date, right? You don't start out with like, what's your credit score and like who passed
Yeah.
away recently in your family, right? Like you don't ask the difficult questions. You start high level, right? What sports do you like? What kind of food do you like? What kind of color
Yeah.
do you like? What's your style? Where'd you go to school? Things like that. We start high level and we work our way in. So when we think about the discovery call, we're going to do the exact same thing. So at the very beginning, we'll have a little bit of rapport, and then I'm going to kick off the call. And as most salespeople do not do this properly, and it's the reason why they lose control of their meetings. The first thing you should do is you should explain again the value of the meeting, right? So thanks very much for joining. It's really nice to catch up and get to meet you. But ultimately, I want to explain a little bit about what today is going to look like. So it's going to be in three different paces. The first part is I'm going to really look to understand yourself and your business, a little bit of where you've been and where you guys are going, so I can make sure that we're on the same page. That's the first part. After that, I'm going to look to understand if you've ever used any competitive solutions or if you've ever procured a solution similar to ours, right? Those are the first two questions I'm going to ask, and I'm going to look to get to the bottom of those. And then towards the end of the call, what I'm going to do is use the information that you've presented me to explain our solution as I think it's relevant to you. And if you're ready, we can move on to what the next step would be, where I'll walk you through step by step by step how our solution will get you to the outcomes that you're looking for, as well as get you out of the pain that you're looking to run away from. So that's the goal of my call today. Do you have any questions? Is there anything you'd like to add to that agenda? That's an example
Yeah.
of how I would go about it as a salesperson. Because then again, when you get into the discovery questions, the person's prepared, right? They're like, okay,
Yeah.
they're going to ask me questions. They're just looking to understand me. That's okay. And they're going to use all the information that I'm giving them at the end of the call. And that's you sort of making a promise, right? I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to actively listen. I'm going to ask curious questions. And then I'm going to use the answers that you give me to explain the solution specifically to you at the end. That is really, really important to do on the discovery call itself. And those questions should start out, just like I said, high level, right? Tell me about
Yeah.
your business, right? Tell me where you guys are going, where you guys are coming from. From there, they'll open up and they'll explain different things, and you'll be able to pick things out and ask questions about, what they did previously or what they're looking to achieve into the future. And then we can ask the competitive question, right? I'm trying to understand, sometimes companies come into the market, they're very disruptive, right? They look to
Okay.
disrupt the status quo, right? You think about your industries that have been around for a long time, you think about a lot of the technologies that are out there, they're coming to market to take the way we used to do things and introduce a new, better, more efficient, scalable process. Now, if you go to do that for somebody, that's only valuable if they understand the way things used to be done. Okay.
Okay.
So when we think about, I'm trying to triangulate, okay, are you a good fit for us in that first question, right? Tell me about your business, what you're looking to achieve, what you're running away from, right? That's the way I think about it. What are you running towards and what are you running away from? That's my first question. I want to understand that first. Then the second question is, I want to understand, are you experienced not only in buying these services, and you've went through a sales process before, so you might be familiar, but are you also familiar with the competition? Because if we're really disruptive to the competition, but you've had no experience with competition before, then I'm going to have to explain that to you. I'm going to have to explain the traditional landscape to you, then polarize how we're different so you can see the value, right? So I'm going to have to do a bit of education so then you can understand my solution. Where if you're very experienced, you already have a solution in place, or you've bought a couple different solutions similar to mine, then I don't have to educate you, right? I just have to learn what that experience was like. So then I can create that polarization, right? So that's that experienced versus inexperienced buyer, which is extremely important to understand and can lead to a lot of frustration in the sales cycle, right? If I'm somebody that's a buyer, your prospect, and I've purchased solutions like yours and stood them up for the last 15 years, and then you get on a call and try and tell me about how the industry has been historically, I'm going to get very frustrated with you because
Yeah.
I've done that. I've already bought those solutions. I've already stood them up. I know more about it than you do, Mr. Sales Guy, right? Where if you're inexperienced, then I don't want to just say we do things faster than the competition, because
Yeah.
they don't know that. That doesn't hold any weight to them. They don't understand the previous experiences. So I'm going to have to explain to them the industry started here, it moved down here, it went down this path, and then now there's us, which is this blossoming flower different from the rest. So that's that second question, right? First question, where's your business going? Is there alignment? Second question, you personally, do you understand how to sort of make these decisions? And then at the very end, I'm going to use all that information you gave me. I'm going to take my pitch, narrow it down, and make it focus specifically towards you. And then I'm going to look to take you to that next step, still holding back a bit of information about how we do everything, because that's what we do on that next call, right? So that's the way that I think about the actual discovery call itself, and how we start high level and we ask those questions that are tied to your sales methodology or framework. Some people use BANT, or they use spin selling, or they use MEDIC. Depends on how
Okay.
enterprise or how transactional you are, but that's where you're going to get a lot of those questions out. And then to the end of that call, how you're going to use what they tell you to further present the value in your solution.
It's really important to try and instill a sense of relationship from the first couple minutes of the call, and that someone doesn't kind of feel interrogated, but they feel like you actually care about them as a person, their interests, and then kind of get to know them from a business perspective. And it's also really important that you can distinguish where they are kind of at, like in the market, what experience they have, to make sure that you are not sort of overwhelming them with information if this is like their first time um, having something
Exactly.
like this, or the opposite, and kind of telling them something that they already know about, and they feel like they're kind of the expert and you're kind of the dummy. So
Exactly.
it's
And
really
it's kind of
important
similar. You
to,
think of like
yeah,
Whistle, right? You think of when
yeah,
you guys are selling SDR services. If I'm a
hmm
business owner and I've tried to stand up SDRs internally and hire them and manage them and train them for years unsuccessfully, how you're going to pitch me is going to be very different than if I'm a founder. I've never hired an SDR before. I have
yeah,
no idea what that's like, right? And I'm doing it for the first time. You're going to have to explain to me some of the trials and tribulations that a lot of people have experienced hiring and managing SDRs internally, right? And why we created our solution, right? I'm going to have to explain that to you and then say, this is why we're really valuable. Where if you've done it a million times and you've experienced those things, I just have to understand, what did you struggle with? Did you struggle with
yeah,
training them and enabling them? Did you struggle with finding them in the first place? Did you struggle with managing their performance or any of those things? Because then I can be very focused into what I pitch about Whistle services, because obviously I know what you've struggled with and what we can fix. And that could choose us between Whistle Talent or Whistle Agency, right? And so that discovery becomes really important. Where if I were to just go in and just be like, here's Whistle Talent, here's Whistle Agency, which one do you want to go
yeah.
with, right? That's not really managing discovery or getting an understanding of what the customer is looking for.
That. I think the word itself, discovery, kind of sums it up exactly like what it is. You need to actually discover everything about them. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to have a framework, is because the idea
Okay.
is not for me to understand everything about you. I need to know
Okay.
certain things, right? So what I use is internally, I use MEDDIC. That's what I always, MEDDIC. And for those of you who want to understand what that is, take a quick look at it online, but it's metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, identified pain, and champion. And what that framework does is it allows me to have an objective set of criteria, those 6 different pieces of criteria, to understand and question myself. Do I understand these things when I come out of a discovery call? So when the first thing is metrics, right? Do I understand the metrics? Do I understand what this business is looking to achieve as an outcome from this purchase? Because if I don't understand that, that's a really important thing to understand. What's valuable to them? What are they saying is valuable, right? It's like, think about going into a used car dealership where they have everything from
Yeah.
a new BMW all the way down to an old Toyota. If I don't understand what you're looking for, right, how am I going to know which car to try and put you in, your budget, any of those other things? So I got to understand those things, right? The economic buyer. Do I have access to or understand who makes this decision, right? Is it you? Do you have a bunch of people that make the decision? And then what's the decision process? Have you guys ever procured services like this before? How do you guys make decisions internally, right? What's the criteria for those decisions? Have I identified your pain? Do I know the pain that you're running away from? And internally, do I have a champion? Somebody being like, I really need a solution like this. These are really important things for me as a seller to understand, because these are different levers that I can pull when I get down to closing, which is the next step that we'll talk about. When I get down to closing, I want to know, do I understand how you make a decision and how I'm aligned to that? Do I understand what you need as outcomes and what pain you're getting away from? Because when I'm presenting my solution, I'm going to bring that back up top of mind. I'm going to say, remember, Mr. Customer, when you were saying that you were looking to get this and you were looking to get away from this, well, here's how our solution gets you there, right? When you almost think of those tests in school where we'd have like all
Yeah.
the different things down the side and we'd have to draw the lines between them. That's
Yes.
kind of the same idea, right? That you're trying to do.
Okay.
So then they go, oh, okay, I see how I get what I want and I get away from what I don't want, right? And how this is aligned to my process. And I have everybody in the room that can make the decision. So that's why it's important to make sure I understand specific things, but I don't just, sometimes in discovery, people just get overly curious and they just keep asking questions to the point
Yes.
where it's like, this isn't relevant anymore. You're just overly curious. We've got to have some sort of framework that can be holding us
Okay.
together and that can question us after to make sure whether we even got the detail that's important for us.
So you kind of have to put like boundaries in place to not sort of overstep what you need and not sort of go off topic. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, because when you start as a business owner, you're sitting there, you're on a call, right? You got to envision from their perspective. They're like, you're asking me this, like, well, how is this relevant to me? How is this relevant to me?
yeah.
You got to get really good at getting to the like, this is important. I now understand your shoes, right? Because that's what, when we think about the definition of empathy, right? If you want to be an
Yeah.
empathetic seller, discovery is a very important component of that. So how can I put myself in somebody else's shoes if I have no idea what it takes, what it looks like to walk a day in their shoes? So my discovery is about trying to understand walking a day in your shoes a little bit. What do you value? What do you think is really important? What will you spend money on? What will you not spend money on? Some of that's gut feel, but a lot of it is just really focused and good questions that lead to you getting an answer that helps you triangulate. Now, you don't want to go on your discovery call and ask every question, right? You're going to have multiple opportunities to ask questions throughout the sales cycle and learn a little bit more, but you want to make sure that you understand the basic things, right? Is this person I'm speaking to, are they a decision maker or are they an influencer? That's really important, because if I try and
Okay.
sell the non-decision maker, they can't say no, they can't say yes, right? I got to try and figure out, is there somebody else that needs to be in this conversation? If I don't understand your pain, what you're running away from, then it's going to be hard for me to create any urgency. So when we come down towards close and I'm trying to get the deal across the line, or I'm trying to move it in the quarter or anything like that, how am I going to create urgency if I don't know that you have any pain or anything you're trying to get away from? And if there is no pain, then that de-ranks my likelihood of closing this deal, because you don't have any pain. Like, maybe you have goals that you want to achieve, but you don't have anything that you're running away from. We want both. We want to know where you're going, what you're looking to achieve, as well as what you're running away from, things that you're trying to get better at. Right. So if I don't understand those things, then that's a bit of an issue. So I've got to triangulate those things, and some things I can wait a little bit more for. Right. Some people, it's like pulling teeth to get those answers. Some people, they just tell you everything. So
Yeah. Obviously depends on their personality or how likely they are to offer you information.
yeah. Or how good your rapport was, right? At the beginning of the call, did
True.
you take an opportunity to sort of show
Yeah.
that I'm not just a salesperson, I'm a personality. That's why I have all of these things in the background, candidly. It's the reason why I put all this up here, right? And I get people to talk about it all the time, right? I have people that come in, they'll talk to me about my boxing. They'll come in, people talk to me about Kobe Bryant. Oh my God, I love Kobe Bryant. What's this weird thing over here in the corner, right? It's like I use that as ways for me to, what I call, build uncommon commonalities, right? So
Okay.
I've got all kinds of things, cars to Star Wars to books to all of that, baseball, lava lamp, whatever that it is. So maybe there's something that you can relate to, and we can immediately create a little bit of a bond, a little bit of connection at the beginning of the call, and then we can get into it. And at that point, it feels a little bit more like two friends sitting at a bar asking each other questions and going back and forth than it does like, hey, tell me everything about your life so I can sell you something.
Exactly. So those are like really great talking points or conversation starters. There has to be something there in the background that someone can resonate with.
Yeah, exactly. And if you know that's if that's your job as a salesperson, right? Is
Yeah.
is not to be really good at closing people that are just like you. The best salespeople can be different versions of themselves for different people. If somebody's
Wow.
really slow and really methodical and very thoughtful and very patient, and they don't have, like, when you think about maybe selling some people on the west coast of the United States versus on the east coast, right? On the east coast, it's very like rapid. What do you need from me? What do you want? Blah 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 blah. Right? Those people are going to have a different style than the people that are on the west coast. They're a little bit more like 10-15 minutes of get to know each other before we get into any business, right? And you've
Okay.
got to be good at different discovery hats. And in those first 5 minutes of every call, what I'm trying to establish is, what bucket are you in? Are you the really talkative, wants to build rapport, likes to inject jokes? You're the non-formal professional, or are you the like very down the middle professional? And I need to understand even how I go into my discovery, even how I ask my questions and answer based off of who you are and mirroring you and what your personality is like, right? So there's a lot of things that, as a salesperson, you're just trying to figure out, who am I speaking to, and what do you like, what don't you like, what's valuable to you, and what isn't valuable to you, so then I can stay focused inside your mind.
I think now could we talk about how you would tie your discovery up or wrap it up?
Yeah. Yeah. So when we think about getting into the close, that's where that discovery becomes super important. We know there's so many people that, towards so many salespeople, this probably resonates with them. I'm at the end of my sales cycle. My boss is telling me I got to try and bring this deal across the line, or I'm trying to hit my quota, or whatever that it is, or I'm whatever, even if I'm trying to win competitively. If I and competitively, by the way, can be against an actual competitor or against status quo, like against
Okay.
just not doing anything at all, right? Especially in Canada, where businesses are more likely to just continue doing the same things they're doing, then like take on a new project, even if it's valuable for them, right? The pain of same has to be greater than the pain of change, right? So that's
Okay.
the way that we kind of have to think about it. So whether it's competitive, whether it's for you and your quota, or whether it's your boss over your head being like, try and close this deal, try and close this deal. If you haven't done strong discovery, there's really like only two things you can do. You can give them more things for the same price, or you can discount the price. And that's the thing that you want to stay away from as a seller. You don't want to be discounting your services every single time to close, because that's
Okay.
cannibalizing your revenue, your sales, the business's revenue, their sales, right? And you don't want to give them more for a lesser price, because again, that doesn't really feel like it's a fair transaction, right?
Yeah,
And
you're
that's
not
what a
going to give
lot
people
of
freebies.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you already are creating value for somebody, what would you have to give them freebies for, right? Like, and so the idea here is that if you've not done strong discovery, you have no lever, right? You have no control. This is a they are driving the control of the relationship, and anything you do to try and drive urgency has to be related to price or to the actual outcome that they're getting from a services or product perspective. And you don't want to negotiate on those things. So the reason why a lot of people are able to not discount, historically through my whole career, I've never discounted ever. And it's because I won't sell people something that's not valuable for them. And if I am selling them something that's valuable for them, I've quantified how valuable, and I've already pulled the price together in that story. So I'm saying, this is how valuable it is for you. Here's the price. This is relevant to this. This is your package. This is what you can get as a business owner. And I'm using all the things that they're running away from their pain, and I'm using all the things that they're looking to achieve, their outcomes, into the proposal. So this is another thing. You should always present your proposals. Because if I sent you a proposal, 20-page proposal, Kayla, right? And you were curious about the price, right? What's the price? What's the price? And you get it in your email. What's the first thing that you're going to do when you open up that proposal?
Look for the price.
You're going to scroll through all 18 pages. You're going to go straight to
Yeah.
the price, right? And then all of that proposal telling you everything you're going to get, all the help you're going to achieve, all blah, 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 just gone. And you look just at the price and you go, is that valuable or is that not valuable? Well, if you're not remembering that it's going to help you achieve X, X, and X, and that it's going to get you away from X, X, and X that both have the value of X, which is less than the price, as an example, in some situations, which isn't really your job to remember as the prospect, then you might not make that decision. So as a sales leader and as a salesperson, this is where you use your discovery, is in your proposal presentation. You sit down and you go, and all your proposals should look like this for customers. If you're a salesperson listening to this and your proposals don't like this, then go speak to your sales leader and say, we should make our proposals more tailored and more inclusive to what the actual urgency is for the customer. So you can sit down and you can go, hey, so, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, we started out here. On our first call, you spoke to me about these things you were really struggling with, right? And you spoke to me about these things you were really looking to achieve. And you explained to me that you needed this, this, and this along the way to get there, right? And then as you're going through the proposal, each way along the way, you're stopping, you're talking about that. You're saying, do you understand here how this thing gets you to the outcomes that you were looking for? Do you understand that? Do you have any questions? No, that makes complete sense. I'm really happy that gets us there, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. Do you see how this here gets you away from the pain that you've previously experienced and gets you on the other side of that? So then you can do X, X, and X. Yes, I do, yada, yada, yada. And do you see how it's done this way that you were asking for? I do. Okay, great. Here's the price. Now, everything's been brought up top of mind, and I'm reminding you of all the value that is baked into this price that you're paying. And if that's especially a $60,000, $50,000, $100,000 price tag, it's really important that that discovery was used in that closing arrangement. And then if they say, you know what, thanks very much, this is fantastic, I'm going to float my proposal around with the team, I'll get back to you later this month. And it's coming down towards later of the month and you're trying to get them, but it feels like the deal's losing momentum. You can get a hold of them and you can use the pain and the outcomes they're looking to achieve to drive urgency into the decision. Right. I understand that you guys have a lot of different things going on, Mrs. Customer, and that you guys are struggling to do X, X, and X. With that being said, you explained to me that this is costing you X amount of money every quarter. For every month we wait, I've quantified that at half of the cost of the contract. So I believe if we're able to get this through in the next couple of weeks, you guys are going to get a return on investment from this solution by July, versus if we continue to wait, it's just going to continue to increase it's going to cost you more money, or it's going to, be X amount of inefficiency, etc. And I can use their words to help drive them towards a decision, not my words, not our competitors or our customers say we're better, or here's a discount. I can use things you told me for why you need it to get to what you want. I can use that to get you back at the table. And now I don't have to talk about pricing. I don't have to talk about anything like that. And if I do, it might be 5%, right? Might be maybe 10%, but it's not going to be 30% or 25%, the sort of blowout discount, right? That's what we want to avoid, because at the end of the year, if you gave 25% off most of your deals to get them across the line, that's a lot of money in a lot of situations down towards the end of the year. And that's the difference between a 75% quota attainment and getting your bonus and hitting 100%, right? Which is a big difference.
I think you've gone through absolutely every possible aspect of a discovery call, and the do's and don'ts, how to tailor it, how to have the right mindset, how to have the customer be in the right mindset, all those sorts of things. So thank you so much for that. Wow, Zac, I feel like you know absolutely everything about a discovery call.
Yeah, I think it's I think discovery for me has been something that is always very like natural and organic. And that's the last piece of advice, is to get really good at discovery. You can do it all the time, right? When you're speaking to
Yeah.
your friends and you're sitting down with them, or somebody talks to you about something, you can ask the next layer of question, the curious question. And when you do that, people love it, right? And it's all about creating an environment that you're intrigued, you're interested, you're curious, right? And you're just trying to understand more. And as long as that's the hat that you're wearing as you go through your discovery, it'll come across as very genuine, right? But if everything is like, okay, thanks, so next question is this, right?
Yeah,
Then it's like,
exactly.
it's going to feel completely different. It's all about the ethos, the environment that you create, preparing them so they understand what's coming, being prepared yourself. So even if you run into a call where somebody you get along with, it's really good, your chemistry is really good, you've got an objective framework to make sure that you're asking the right questions still. Because sometimes you can get off a good discovery call with someone you really liked and think, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this opportunity. And then you look at your medic and you go, damn, I don't actually know anything that's helping them make decisions. I just really liked that person. Well, that's, you've got a bit of work to do. And sometimes you
Yeah.
get off a call where you're like, man, it was like trying to pull teeth to get answers from that. But I look at my framework and I go, wow, like I got a lot of information that I can use here. That's really good. So it's an objective qualifier for how well your meetings go. So there's a lot in there, but it's a fun practice you can do a lot of the time with your friends, with your family, all over the place. And as long as you tee it up properly and you're genuine and curious, the people really like it. And you can use it really well to close. And it's the thing a lot of people don't realize is the best closers do the best discovery. They're not the best closers. They're the best discoverers.
Yeah. Well, you make it seem like it's a walk in the park, and I'm sure it isn't, but you definitely have the most knowledge about it. And thank you so much for such an insightful chat. I think everybody can take away quite a few aspects from this. So thank you so much, Zac. It's
Welcome,
been
Kayla.
such a pleasure having you on Whistle